Welcome to What Happened on the Job. We are episode 26, coming to you as we slowly get out of this slowly get out of this pandemic and this social distancing. We're about to be a little bit more social here. My name is Mike Fisher. With me, as always, is Brian Summers.
What's up, everyone?
Again, this is our podcast for relatable conversations with contractors that hopefully bring a little bit of entertainment to your day. With us today, we got Tony Falco, founder and CEO of Accurate Leak Locators. How you doing, Tony?
Doing good myself. How about you guys?
Fantastic.
Very good.
Thanks for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it.
I'm actually honored.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. We're like I said, episode 26 now, so we're getting a little bit more comfortable. We get a little more flow. We get a little bit more listeners, so it helps you out a little bit.
To be honest with you, during the coronavirus, there's not too much anybody can do other than listen and watch.
It's very true.
And if the Democrats had anything to say about it, we'd be here till probably September.
Or later.
Yeah, exactly.
Post-election, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think that would somehow or another, Pelosi and Schiff would twist that into their favor, but that's okay. We won't go there. Let's try to keep the politics out of it.
Fantastic.
Obviously, you can tell that I voted for Trump.
Who?
Exactly. Hey, he's not perfect, but I gotta love his sense of humor.
Awesome. Well, so we typically like to start with kind of how you got started in your business. Kind of give us the Reader's Digest version, or get as detailed as you like. How you got started in this industry and the road to where you are now.
Pretty funny. I started out in, believe it or not, it was 1984 and 1986. I was a meat cutter for bonds, and I've worked my whole life ever since I was 9 years old. And I had a union representative come to me and tell me that I can't work because we're going on strike. And that was probably before a lot of listeners were born, but or they were born that some era. But it was when the teamsters, which were the meat cutters were under, dissolved their relationship with the butchers, and the butchers had to join the grocery union. Needless to say, we were out for 3.5 months, and we actually settled for less than what they bargained for from day one. But the point is that I said I made a promise to myself that I would never, ever have anybody control that I can work or not work. Yeah. Speaking of the virus. But in 1986, I had a pleasure of working with a meat manager of mine. I was the assistant. A guy named Bob Fetter, I still remember him. He came out of Bakersfield, but he used to clean VA repos. And what he would used to do is go in and pull the carpet back, whitewash the walls with Old Quaker paint. And of course, back in the 80s, you could take 5 gallons of Old Quaker paint, pour 3 gallons of water in it, and come out with somehow 9 gallons of paint. And don't ask me how that math worked, but we used to just paint over everything white and then kick the carpet back in, clean it, and we'd get paid $300 a house. And back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Story short of it all is I ended up buying a carpet cleaning machine, and from a carpet cleaning machine that I swore I'd never do an insurance job, because my first customer was Don Ball at Allstate. And if anybody has been around 20 plus years, they'll know who Don Ball is. But long story short, I ended up getting into flood damage. I owned a company called Steam Masters, which led to Master Restoration. I became a certified restorer. I did national drying throughout the United States in the early 90s during Hurricane Andrew and Hurricane Anika, and the Midwest floods and the earthquake hit in 1995, 96. I sold off the company called Master Restoration and all my drying equipment to a company called Harbro. And Harold Brown was still around, which was the founder of Harbro. Jim Franklin and I didn't get along too well, but I had a non-compete clause. And I had already been doing plumbing because we were a general contractor. I had a flooring contractor license and a general contractor license. And I had always did my in-house plumbing. We had in-house electricians, in-house plumbing. Well, I decided to go directly to just plumbing only and do leak detection, because at that time in 1996, 97, the only game in town was American Leak Detection. And they used to have a company, I think, called National Leak Detection, too. That was the only competition. So I gave them a run for their money. Our company originally was called American Leak Locators. 6 months into it, the franchise corporation of American Leak Detection, which was out of Palm Springs, sued us to change our name. The judge told them that I didn't do anything wrong, so they paid me to change my name to Accurate. And I built a business based upon being accurate. And now I think every plumbing truck in the world has leak detection on the side. But back then there was none of them. We worked mainly for plumbers and insurance companies. We hardly ever worked for a homeowner direct. Most of it was always through insurance. And then as we talked at one time or another, Mike, I think you realize that, people just have the opportunity. And now, people do leak detections and they get their whole house refurbished. But what we try to do is keep, stick to what the cause of loss is our motto and customer service. But as a plumbing contractor and a general contractor, I'm probably one out of maybe 5 plumbing companies in the United States that are actually a certified restorer. And if the listeners out there don't know what a certified restorer is, it's pretty much a PhD in restoration. And it's a very extensive class and not easy to do to accomplish it. I think now they got it down to 18 months, but it used to be a 2-year course that you had to take and you had to fly back east to do it. But I'm number 167 as far as a certified restorer is, and I think they're up to like 1,100 now in North America. There's 1,100 of them. But it's a select few that actually are dedicated to this industry and dedicated to estimating a job correctly. And I built that upon that. I've had 3 of my boys that work for the company, and I have 17 other employees, but we cover Southern California. And after that, it's history.
So when obviously it sounds like you have the ability to do everything from the leak detection all the way through the finished construction. Do you guys actually do all that? Do you self-perform all that stuff, or is it
no, we
just manage the job?
In 1995, I made a decision to quit drawing, building, and restoring homes, and no matter what the insurance loss was, whether it's a flood, a fire, hurricane, or whatever. And I've done just about everything under the sun, from floods to rivers rising and demoing it. As a matter of fact, I think my name appears on the first water damage standards that was written back in the day when Claude Blackburn, which was the founder of Dry Ease, and then Cliff Zlotnick, which was the founder of Unsmoked, and Pete Consigli, which now runs the IRA, I believe. But all of us sat on a board and we created the first set of water damage standards. I think they're on number 3 now, but we stick strictly to the plumbing, and we do everything in plumbing under the sun. But as far as doing the general contracting and stuff, I've stayed away from it. I can do it. I'm licensed and insured to do it. And I have taken select jobs, whether it be good friends of mine, family members, or for instance, we just moved into our new office out, 2-story office, and we did all the TIs. We did about 6,000 square foot of TIs. And I love the finish work. I love the details in it, but I just don't have the patience for what I call the new subcontractors of the millennials.
Babysitting and managing.
I like the first word much better. I call it daycare. It's amazing, but if you're late, you make a phone call and say, "Hey, I'm running behind." If you can't make it today, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it out to that job today. I got hung up on another job." There's no more common courtesy I see in the world today. It's just, it's unbelievable. And most of the generals that I see, not the old school guys, because there's still a lot of good companies out there, but a lot of these new guys that are getting into this insurance industry per se, most of them are paper generals. And it's sad, but it's true. And that's just the era we live in, I guess. Kind of like, new cars now, most of them, 25 to 30% of them are electrics. Well, it is what it is. But it's just like I said, it's just the times that we live in, and people just don't have that common courtesy.
We see it all the time. I mean, we only work with contractors, so and we see them. We have them on both sides, right? I mean, we have the subs, and we try and educate them and teach them so that they're not the problem child for the general. But we also have the generals, and we hear the stories all the time from the field of the subs that they have to work with and the things.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Going back to the certified restorer, that's something that that I've never heard of before. Is that something that you're required to do at any point for anything, or is that something that literally is just there for people who want to better themselves in the industry?
It's exactly what you just said. It's people that want to have that credential. Like I said, it's literally a PhD. When I say a PhD, it teaches you, you have to pass the fire damage course. You have to pass the bloodborne pathogen course, which is dead body cleanup. You have to pass the water damage course. They don't have a quote unquote leak detection course because leak detection is still recognized as a specialty, kind of like asbestos. Right. But you still cover the contracting portion of it, how to estimate a job correctly. They teach you what a true, Oriental rug is, what's a look-alike antique to a real antique. And the perfect example is you open the door and if it has finger joints, there's a good possibility it's either a damn good look-alike, an aftermarket look-alike, or it is truly an antique. But there's several different ways you can tell it. I mean, years ago, they didn't have nails. And if they did have nails, they were, oblong nails that were what we call peg head nails, or they used screws, or they use, like I said, finger joints. You see somebody that says, oh, this is an antique, and you open it up and the drawer's got, finished nails and everything. And you're going, no, it ain't an antique. But you know what? You don't bring that up, right in front, but it does teach you how to identify these items. And then it also teaches you how to properly do cleaning on Oriental rugs or cleaning on a Tahitian cotton couch, and all these fabrics, and how to actually get to odor and clear it and kill it and make the odor dissipate, because odor lives on, basically odor is a fungus. And, it teaches you how to eliminate odor. And the only way you do that is eliminate oxygen and the source. So as long as you still have a source, you're still going to have odor. Perfect example is mold, but it teaches you all of that. And you do take that course to not only better yourself, but it kind of puts you, I hate to use them words in terms of cliche, but it puts you one up on your competitor.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Most of the larger restoration, I'll give you an example. Lori over at Bartwood, she's a certified restorer. I think Tom Stuff that runs Bellflower of Southern California, he's a certified. Most of the big companies that are out there that are serious about what they're doing, most of them have gone through the trouble of going through that class. And then, like I said, it's a good achievement. I'm very happy. I was trained by the guy that created the Certified Restorer program. And at that time, it was under ASCR is what we used to call it. Now it's IRA and IICRC has joined forces. But before it was IICRC, ASCAR, then ASCAR got changed to IRA, I believe it is. I think that's what it's called. I used to have a plaque up on my wall, but I don't anymore when I moved. But the point of it is that it's an organization that you have a meeting, you meet at least once a year, if not twice a year, kind of like Contractors Connection per se. But all of the peers and the people that run the companies, they all get together. And, I know you hear this a lot, but truly when you go to these seminars and you go to these conventions, you actually, if you're smart, you're a sponge. You just retain all this information. And then when you get back to your office, you pick and choose, because you really do hear some very creative ideas. And, we live in a country that has 4 seasons. So a lot of times the stuff that they do on the East Coast, we might not ever know about on the West Coast, because we're, as the old saying goes, 70 degree and seldom, our weather doesn't change much.
Yeah.
So sometimes people back there do things different that can give you an idea out here to alter a process or a way that you're doing something and actually better yourself and be an embetterment instead of just, the typical, oh yeah, this is what we do.
Right.
So you can actually learn, but most people don't go there as a learning experience. I do, and I found it very, very informative. So I'm very pro convention and pro seminars.
Well, so I guess part of that is probably where they do it at, right? If they put it in Vegas, I can't imagine it's easy to
get
be that sponge,
there.
Yeah. Or
be the sponge.
No, just in Vegas, they just have to make it longer days because they have room service with hookers. No, I'm just kidding. They have portable massage parlors there that come to your room. And they wear masks, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they've got to wear masks.
And for whatever reason, everybody's named Susie. I don't know why. It's just.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're from the Midwest or the South where they're inbred or something, where your sister, your aunt, your niece is all the same person.
Oh, God.
Never know, man. Got to keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, you got to keep going, man. You got to keep spinning. But actually, it's really being a contractor prior to doing the restoration and actually starting out as, and I think most of these restoration guys that were founders of companies, I think almost all of them started out as a rug sucker. Every one of them started out as a carpet cleaning. And, carpet cleaning gets you to the flood. The flood gets you to take a class. The class gets you to think about doing, well, maybe I should become a contractor. And, some people do it. And just as many as I say, some people do it, for every one, there's probably 3 that didn't get a contractor's license. They don't have insurance and they're out there running off the seat of their pants. And unfortunately, there's still that homeowner that goes to Craigslist or that consumer that goes to Craigslist and is looking for price. And he gets that handyman and he gets that guy that's not licensed. And, when you do that, there's 2 things that transpire. One, you're accepting quality of work that you have no rebound from. You have no recourse at all. You've used an unlicensed contractor and you knew that up front. 2, if something does happen to your home, let's just say you had a contractor that did it, you're biting the bullet on it because there's nothing to go after because the guy doesn't have any insurance. It has anything there to go after.
Yeah,
no insurance. You're going to get shoddy work. You're going to get, workmanship. And the other thing that these guys that I try to tell everyone that I've ever seen that doesn't have a contractor's license, I tell them, I go, man, anything over $600, you can go pound sand for. They don't have to pay you. And they literally, homeowners do not, a consumer does not have to pay you. If you do not have a state contractor's license, the judge is not going to make anybody pay you for your work.
Right. Yep.
So, all of these guys that are out there, everyone I've ever talked to, I told them, I said, man, the best thing you can do is get your license and be legit because that says something. That means that you took the extra steps to do it right.
Yeah. And like
then you get to weed out the good and the bad, I guess.
And you got your recourse to be able to collect.
Well, you got something to hang your hat on because, you got guys go in there that you can cut up a house, dude. You can do some serious damage to a home if you're not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. So going back to the training, I can't imagine you put all your employees through an 18-month course that you went through or a 2-year course that you went through. How much of that information you transferring over to them, and what kind of process do you put them through when you bring guys on?
First and most importantly, every bit of that information I share. I'm a firm believer in knowledge is meant to be shared. And the last thing that I want is to have an employee that's out there or a person that's working for me out there that I could have shared information. And, you make a decision as a business owner, you make a decision. Okay, well, I'm telling this guy everything I got in my toolbox. Okay, he could be my competitor. Well, that's great. He still didn't go to that school. That's one. But most importantly, I want my guys trained, and we go through quite a bit of extensive training. Every Tuesday, for instance, we actually did it today. We didn't do it yesterday. We weren't available. Every Tuesday, we literally have a training meeting for 45 minutes where we go over jobs, policies, and procedures. Every Monday, we have our safety meeting. So I would venture to say that I give any and all information to an employee that's interested in learning and that's interested in absorbing. You have your handful that, you can train them all you want. They're still going to be, you can't change a rock. A rock's still going to be a rock even after you give them an 8-hour course. But for the most part, I share every bit of that information. I mean, we go in and as a plumbing contractor, because technically a leak locating company, you're a plumbing contractor is what your license should be. Okay. We go in and we do moisture readings. We find out what's wet. We truly help the process. If my guys have to pull carpet back, they know how to do that. If my guys have to pull flooring up, they know how to do that. My guys know finished carpentry because we'll pull cabinets off the wall. We'll pull framing around a cabinet or finish around a cabinet off, and it's tedious work. Or we'll pull ovens out of the way or move built-ins out of the way. That comes from knowledge and that comes from experience. And most of the time what we do is we stack a lead, which is an experienced in construction and plumbing, and then we set them with a helper. Now, the average helper if he applies himself and applies the knowledge, he could be running a truck by himself within a year to 2 years, depending on his ability to learn and depending on his ability to perform. So it still folds back to that same old saying, you're going to be as good as what you make it. And I always told people, what you get what you put in it. And if you don't want to apply yourself, it's not going to pay off for you.
Yeah. So you're taking guys and not necessarily putting them through, an extensive training process. It's more, hey, let's meet every week. Let's talk about things, but get in the field with somebody who's experienced and you're kind of teaching them along the way.
Yeah, no, every one of my guys leave out of the corporate office. Prior to leaving, they have their notes, they have their job duties, they have all the materials they need. We have all that in-house. My guys don't go stand in line at supply houses and wait to get materials. Our warehouse is completely stocked. And like I said, we run 10 trucks throughout Southern California. And like I said, most of the time, there's always something that you might forget or you needed or you didn't know you needed. But for the most part, all of our guys leave here with everything and they know the knowledge of what they're doing prior to them getting to the job. Now, when we first go to a job, let's just say that you called in and you said you had a slab leak. We don't know what we're going to need at your job, but we'll have it when we come back to do that repair.
Right. Right.
So when we go to that job, all of our trucks are fully stocked and all these guys know how to do that process. And yes, they are trained. And no, I do not. Actually, I try to shine away from hiring guys that say they're plumbers because 90% of them have bad habits. And I would say 90% of the plumbers in Southern California work off a commission base, and we do not do that. We don't pay our guys, the bigger the job, the more money you make. We pay our guys to do the right job the first time, and we pay them hourly from point A to point B. So our guys are non-commissioned and non-salaried personnel, and they're there to get the job done right the first time, hopefully.
Where are you finding your employees, and what kind of process are you using to hire them?
You know what? We've used Indeed, and I have gotten a few good people from Indeed. But believe it or not, my best luck is I actually, when I'm out and about, when I'm marketing and I'm visiting clients and I'm out and about, I'm a people person anyway, but I have literally, I speak of this one guy. I walked in a restaurant once. My wife and I were sitting down to eat dinner, and this kid setting us down, cleaning the table off, and his personality I went, holy cow. And I looked at him and I go, have you ever thought about being a plumber? No, I just, and I took the guy from there, and he literally, now he works for a competitor of mine. He actually is the right-hand man for a large plumbing company. But I took Ryan Young, and he turned out to be one of the best employees that I've ever had. And he still is. He's a great guy. I've stayed in contact with him. I know his dad, but he was just that guy that you just said, man, I could shape and mold this guy. And that's truly what it takes. I have a gentleman that works for me. Howard literally had worked for 3 major plumbing companies based on commission. And in 2000 and I want to say 7 or 8, right when the economy crashed the last time, prior to COVID and the Democrats. But Howard came to work for me, and it literally, and Howard's a great guy. He's one of my best employees now. He's going on a 9 or 10 years, almost 10 years, I guess now. It's 2008 is when he started, I believe. But it took almost 3 years for Howard to break the habits of a commissioned service plumber.
What are some of those habits that you're referencing?
One of the habits are you walk in and the first thing you do is sell everything. Yeah, man, you need to replace that. Nobody fixes what's broke anymore. Oh, I call it, like I said earlier, we don't restore anymore. We replace. Everything is replaced. Now, in the contractor's defense, and I'm not saying that all contractors fall into that, in a contractor's defense, especially a lot of the insurance program work, these people at Contractors Connection, at Nexus, they all want you to warranty your workmanship for 2, 3, 4, and 5 years. How can I warranty something 5 years when I can't control who's using it?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. You put a glass enclosure in a tub shower combo, or a sliding glass doors on a shower, or whatever. I can take one couple and that shower will last 10 years. I could put that exact same glass enclosure in a house and it'll last a year or 6 months because the people they're brutal.
Yeah.
When you look at their cars are torn up. You look at their house, the front door's falling off the hinges, the screen door's torn. I mean, there's just those people. So they don't put any of that in fine print. They just say you have to guarantee your workmanship. So a lot of these contractors, in their defense, they say, hey, if I've got to warranty it, I want to put in something new. Where 20 years ago, you had to pull teeth to put in anything new. The true word restore was literally you restore it. You pulled all the base off and numbered it and pulled the nails out and put the old base back on and painted it. That was what we did. That's how we did things. Now you go there, these guys pull base off, the nails are sticking up out of the base, and you just see them and they throw it over in a corner, and then they go, oh, we can't reuse it. Well, yeah, you can't reuse it because you didn't take care of it. You cut the bead of caulk at the top of the base so you don't rip the wallpaper or the paper off the drywall, and you rip the paint off the wall. You slice it, you score it with a razor knife, and then you pull the base off. But people don't do that anymore. Everybody's slam and go.
Right.
And part of that commission thing is, if I could hurry up and do this in an hour, I made $500. But it's really going to take 2 hours to do it right. But I'm just going to hurry up and get it done in an hour. Look how much money I made. And so it comes back to that almighty dollar. And that's why I hate commissions, because commissions is based upon what you sell them. Well, of course, you're going to sell them a new faucet instead of fixing the cartridge, or sell them a new shower valve instead of fixing the cartridge. And that's the difference between $500. And if you get 30% commission on $500, I'd rather make $150 than I make 30% on $100 and I make $30.
Yeah.
So that's what you fight at commission sales. And so you either get guys that are selling stuff that homeowners don't need, or they're slamming through it, and you're going back and doing warranty work because they did it fast and half-assed.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, going back to the hiring portion, I have to imagine when you mentioned hiring that gentleman, Ryan, and I think it's important to hit on, because a lot of contractors kind of do it backwards. But I have to imagine at that point, when you met him, you were not in a situation where you had to hire somebody. It was more of a hire.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. I didn't have to hire him.
Yeah, I think that's the important part. Is a lot of these contractors get into situations where they don't have that mentality, where they're always just looking for good people, and then they lose somebody or 2 or 3 people, and now they've got to hire, and they get into a situation where they're just doing what they can to bring somebody on, and
immediately,
and they end up bringing on somebody that they shouldn't have in the first place. I'm glad you brought that up, because there's 2 things. Number one, as the CEO, as the founder, and again, I started this company with myself and a gentleman. Carlos worked for me for 23 years. He's retired now. We still stay in touch, but it was just Carlos and I. And then it went from Carlos and I to another gentleman named Gerald and another guy named Ron. And then we had, we always had a helper or two, but Carlos and I did it by ourselves. And believe it or not, in 1997, 98, it was Carlos and I was on call every other weekend. So I would go 1 week on call, anything after whenever we got done that day, and I'd repeat when we got done that day. It wasn't, oh, it's 3 o'clock and I'm off. No, you were done when you were done with your job, okay? And that's one of the things that I could speak to on some of these CEO and founders. This isn't a 9-to-5 job. If you're the CEO, if you're the founder, or better yet, let's just say you're running it for a guy that's the investor and has the money behind it and backing you. This job goes home with you. This job goes with you. Like I said, I was sitting down eating dinner with my wife, and I was relaxed, not even thinking about work. And I seen this guy and I said, man, this is a diamond in the rough. This guy's got all the qualities in the world. He's got the personality. He's clean cut. He doesn't stink. He's well groomed. He's polite. I mean, all of them come into a factor. And when you put an ad in the paper, I had an ad run in Indeed and on Craigslist right when this culvert virus thing hit. And some of the people that I was getting in here, I went, I wouldn't drive up and let you wash my car out in front of the customer's house, let alone work for me. But you got an assortment of people. And you have to understand, we walk into homeowners' houses. So I have to be selective. I have to tell you, you have to have a well-trimmed, beard. You can't just look like Grizzly Adams that walked out of the force after the last 5 years.
You have to be if you want to be respected, right? You don't have to be.
Not only respected, if you want to stay busy.
Right.
It's just like my guys. I buy all my guns. Please don't compare me to Mike Diamond, the smell good plumber. But I buy all my guys. If they want to buy cologne and stuff and gum, I literally give it to them so that when they walk up to the house, hey, I understand you smoke. I understand. I get it. I'm not telling you can't. But when you walk up to the customer's house, wipe your hands, your face off with wipies or Lysol wipes or whatever, and then put some gum in your mouth. Be presentable.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what we've lost in this millennial age. Everybody wants to hide behind that computer or that iPhone. And guys, there's a ton of money out there to be made if you just go that extra mile. And that extra mile is presentation. Presentation's everything. First appearance, first impression, it's everything. Yeah. Because that customer remembers that. They really do. And finding them people on Craigslist, I don't think you're going to find that person on Craigslist. You might find them because Indeed helps you weed some of that out. And I know that my office has a couple of other ones they use, but Indeed is probably the main one that we use because they do a pretty good job of screening. And, it becomes, as an owner, and as a person that runs a corporation, it becomes challenging sometimes when, they've got to pass a background check. They've got to pass a drug test. And this is the big one. They got to have a valid driver's license. Gee whiz, imagine that. Oh, you mean I have to have a driver's license? Well, yeah, how are you getting to work?
Suspended for the last 18 months?
Yeah, I drive right now. Are you driving legal? No, not at all. I just never went down and got my license after my fifth 502 or DUI. Your fifth. Yeah, not 6, 5, right? Yeah, 5. It's very hard sometimes and challenging when you're trying to find these employees as you look for them. You become creative. And like I told you, it's you have to look for them and you have to want to find them, if you know what I mean. It's not something that falls into your lap. And like you said, a lot of these guys make that decision that you can't, they make the decision, I'm just going to hire this guy. That's sometimes the worst thing you can do. You're better off postponing a job. And I've done that. I have postponed the job. Because a qualified person, this guy's the only one qualified to do this particular work, and something happened. I just said, "Hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to be out there." I would rather have a customer upset because we're not going to be there than have a customer upset because we screwed up their house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
so
totally
there's a decision to be made there, and it's just you have to make them decisions every day, and it's not easy when you make them decisions because I praise my office staff because when they answer that phone, they take the blunt of that punishment. And, once you get that customer calmed down, then you can communicate to them. But right away, and I hate to say this sounds really cliche, but they always blame the plumber. The plumber did it. Yeah. The plumber couldn't have done everything, lady. You bought a house that's 40 years old.
It's easy because you can't see the plumber's work behind everything else. So.
Yeah, well, my favorite one is we were there we put an angle stop on, and now because I put an angle stop on, your water pressure dropped. Or better yet, my favorite one is I caused a leak under the slab. That's kind of impossible if I'm dealing with something above the slab that I made something under the slab leak that's 20 feet away. But because I'm the only one that's been in her house, and I was the last one there, it sounded good to blame me.
Right.
It is what it is. And people, like you said earlier, people just want to come up on you. People just want to be one up on you or the opportunity.
Yep.
And, if you dot your I's, you cross your T's, it's an unpleasant conversation you got to have with them. But most people come back to ground zero and say, you're right. The house is old. Yes, this is what happened. I understand. I'm just really frustrated because all they see is dollars.
Right.
I wrote many articles, and I used to write them once a month for the insurance industry. But one of the articles I wrote was seeing through the eyeglasses of the owner or the customer. Sometimes you need to stand back and put yourself in their eyes. They've had a water loss. First thing they heard from the adjuster is your rates are going up and we might not cover this. And then they hear that one, my favorite one is we're not paying for the pipe repair. All they heard was they didn't hear the word pipe. They heard repair.
Right.
So the first thing the consumer says is, oh, well, they're not paying for this. Now I'm really pissed. And then, they go and whether they grab a public adjuster or they get on the phone and they start yelling immediately. So you gotta you got to understand that customer standpoint of view is this is all coming at them out of an unnormal situation. It's an emergency. That's why it's called EMS, emergency services. This is an emergency. Your house is flooded. And I tell people right when we walk in, the first thing I'm going to tell them is, this is not going to be something easy. You're going to be here in a couple of weeks from now, and you're still going to be going through this. You mean they're not going to get this done tomorrow? No. Not when the ceiling of the second floor is setting on the ground floor of the carpet. No, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But they really, people really don't have no conception, concept of what it's going to take, because most people buy a house built with drywall and paint already there.
Yeah, I don't see everything.
They don't understand what's underneath it. They just see a finished wall and I live here.
Yeah, no, so true.
So a lot of people miss that.
You make a good point. I never really thought about the fact that by the time they're getting to you, they're already pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
So you're having to, we've asked this question a lot, but when you're having to make difficult decisions, what's the kind of process you go through? But basically the start of the entire relationship begins with that. Is that something that I got to assume, it sounds like from your staff, they take the brunt of that initially and kind of go through that. Is that part of your training when you're working with them? Like, hey,
absolutely, absolutely,
jackass, you got to be kind.
Yeah. Well, your first thing you turn, this has gone over meeting after meeting after meeting. You have to understand that customer's pissed off.
Yeah.
Right now, most customers are mad. Right now, they don't have an income. People are broke. So if the insurance company's not paying for it, they're not going to do it. Second thing, with that said, you have to explain to them the process. When the insurance company says, I'm not paying for that pipe repair, they think it's the whole plumbing bill. Now, there are some insurances policies out there that literally exclude plumbing from their policy. There's literally insurance policies written on homeowners that said all plumbing and repairs are excluded. For instance, State Farm does not pay. If you have a galvanized pipe, State Farm does not pay. And I use State Farm loosely because they in the last week or last month, they could have changed their policy. I don't know. But in the past, State Farm says, no, we're not paying to repipe your house. We will pay to fix the leak in the slab. Here's your money. You can do whatever you want to do with that money. And if you choose to reroute or repipe it, it's on you.
Well, from personal experience, I've found that even if they do cover it and will cover it, it's almost better off to pay for it yourself, just because, we were in that situation and had to have it repiped, but we were under the impression that they were not going to renew us or that our rates were going up. So whether they cover it or not, most of the time you're in a shitty situation as a homeowner anyway.
90% of, I think almost all insurance companies right now have gotten the approval that if you have either one or more claims, and I know if that M word, mold, comes into it, or what, farm. I'll give you an example. Farmers, if you have a second story water loss, meaning a 2-story house, and you have a flood upstairs and goes downstairs, your deductible automatically goes to $5,000.
Yikes. Dang.
Yeah.
And so you had a $500 deductible or a $1,000 deductible prior to this, and then you had an upstairs toilet overflowed, or an upstairs angle stop broke or flex line. Flooded the whole upstairs and downstairs. Well, sorry, bud, your deductible is $5,000. And I mean, you have to understand that most people do not have an insurance loss once every 5 to 10 years. Okay, some of these people haven't had an insurance loss for 30 years. They're feeling, and again, you have to take the insurance company's hat off, take the contractor's hat off, and now put the consumer's hat on. I've been paying, this is my favorite line, I've been paying insurance 30 years. I've never turned a claim over. Yep. And now they're denying it. Yep. Well, yeah, they are. But the trouble is the whole bottom or the whole subfloor in front of your shower is rotted. And it's because you didn't do anything about it 15 years ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta, so there's, what did the famous divorce attorney said? There's 3 sides to every story. His, her, and the real one.
Yep.
It's truly, I see why the insurance company puts a wall up and gets, really, really rigid and strict. And I also see why consumers lie through their teeth and want the world, because the insurance companies have created their own monsters, but so has the general public. So you kind of see both sides of it. So you kind of play a manipulative role, what we're at, because the first thing you do is you find out, you set the mode to the claim, and we knock on the door. Our first response is usually, "Man, what brought you to turn in an insurance claim? What brought us here?" And then they usually, you are not going to believe what they get it all off their chest. And once they get past that, you're kind of good to go. But truly,
You're
half the
like
time we're
therapist.
psychiatrists. Yeah. We really are psychiatrists and therapists, because they're pissed off, they don't understand, and especially, some of the, God bless them, but widows or elderly. I'm 63. I'll be 63. The older you get, sometimes the harder to comprehend things. And even at 63, I'm not what I was. I could do 10 things at once when I was 30. Now I can do 2.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference in your mental capability of retaining and understanding. These elderly people, they don't get the phone. They don't get the emails. They don't get a podcast. Oh my God, you ask them about a podcast, they're going to say, "Well, you putting a microphone on a pod?" you know what I'm saying? They don't understand that. Now, there's that 20% of them that are with it, know what an email is, know what a pod, and they're on it. Them are the exceptions. But my old man used to tell me, and my dad was in the retail business his whole life for Wards and Sears. He was a district and supervisor and VP. But my old man used to always tell me, do as they do in Rome. So if you're in Rome, do what the Romans do. If you're in Spain, do what the Spaniards do. If you're in Mexico, do what the Mexicans do. And what he meant by that was, every place you walk, it's going to be a different situation. And everything always stands on its own merit. So you got to change with whatever you're dealing with. And, you walk into some people's houses, and I've been in houses before where the wife has been married for 40 years, 50 years. She just lost her husband, and he did everything for her. She never had to lift a finger. All she had to do was cook for him, clean his clothes, and, be there for him. Well, now all of a sudden she's inherited all these responsibilities. She's confused. She's upset. She's frustrated. You have to take all that has to go into the mix of being customer oriented and customer service. And you train for that. You tell your guys to do that. And each, like I said, each week, these guys hear something new and they train on something different. And you also look for that when you hire employees.
Yeah, no, it's funny you talk about, speaking of customers, and especially when they're coming at you with, you getting that angry phone call. It takes me back. I ran restaurants for a long time, so rarely did I ever as a manager, get called over at a table for somebody to tell me how great of a job we were doing. 99% of
yeah, but they sure brought you the plate that was completely gone with the hair in it, right?
Yeah. So, but the one thing we were always told, or something that I never really forgot in management customer service training, is that I tried to pass on to everybody, is that in that situation, the customer's perception is reality. So, when you're on the management side, if you can get that through your head, that what they're saying, what their experience is their reality, you get to a position where you can kind of understand them and empathize with them a little bit before before getting defensive. Now, obviously, if they go on and they're jackasses and are just trying to screw you, then it is what it is. But in the initial moment, if you can get under that, wrap your head around the fact that what they're saying, their perception is their reality, it makes that process go a little bit smoother.
Yeah, it does. And again, like you said, that's why I said it's called looking through the eyeglasses of the consumer. Well, same thing in your restaurant business. You have to look through their eyeglasses. And, you handled the guy that owned a restaurant before, other than the guy that's close to being a bum that came in and said that he's not happy with his hamburger, but yet he only brought the corner of it back. It's different than the guy that, actually found a hair in his hamburger.
Right. Yep.
You gotta put yourself in their shoes as well. And one of the things that, I have 2 no tolerances. One of the no tolerances is I have no drug tolerance at all, one whatsoever. We random drug test. I'm sorry. You can give me every excuse in the world. This marijuana thing, I'm not against marijuana. I'm not for marijuana. Everybody has a right to choose and it's legal. But like I tell my guys, I do a piss test on you. I have a content that comes back in your urine that says how many milligrams of marijuana is in your piss. So I can tell if you're getting stoned before you come to work or you're stoned at work. The count will go way up through the roof over 400. And I tell them, you got one warning. If this happens again, you're gone. But for the rest of the drugs, there's no tolerance. And the other no tolerance I have is when you call my office and I have a homeowner, usually most of the time it's male. Most of them have a problem with women anyway, but they're yelling and cussing and, yelling at my girls and cussing at them. I have no tolerance. I tell them straight up, I'm sorry, we don't want your business. Please take your business elsewhere, because I won't put any employee through that, and they shouldn't have to. It's sad, but it's the world we live in. And some people think the louder they scream, the more they're going to get. No, that's not the case. It doesn't work that way. You get more with sugar than you do vinegar.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You always will.
So we're kind of moving on to kind of where we're at now. What are you guys seeing as far as business trends in the middle of this social experiment, if you want to call it that we're in right now? And
well, when it first came out, I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of us, and I think you guys will probably include yourself in it, you said, come on, give me a break. I mean, I truly believe the coronavirus has been here since November. That's my personal opinion. We had several employees that were out during the end there toward Thanksgiving, and then during the month of December that were out for 3 to 5 days, the guys that never get sick. So I think it's always been here. I don't think we had a name for it at that time. And then as this pandemic got bigger, and as our media whores got on TV every day, whether it's Garcetti or Newsom or Pelosi or whoever it was, but as they got on TV and created this, what I call a monster, it first came out, we had to do the proper protocol and precautions per the state, per the CDC, with all of the rules and regulations. I mean, we geared up, and that lasted for about 4 to 5 weeks. We still are wearing, whether it be a full face scarf mask or a scarf type thing that the guys put over their nose and face, or they put on their paper mask. At one time, we were only wearing half respirators, but all of our guys wear gloves on every job. Most of the time they have booties on, and they always have some type of face protection. Now, that is optional, but like we have said, and I've given them a letter to state it, this option is up to you. I recommend you to wear a mask at all jobs. And the only reason why I say all jobs is because I don't know what we're walking into.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people are very, very, very dishonest. As a matter of fact, employees can be dishonest. I had one employee take both of his kids to the doctor. They had high fevers. They had all of the symptoms of the coronavirus, but yet he didn't tell anybody. And I told him, I said, you're not coming back to work until I have negative tests from you and your kids. Well, you can't do that. And I go, yeah, actually I can. But it's amazing to me, somebody that close, and this is like 3.5 weeks into it. And thank God he was negative, but 3.5 weeks into this coronavirus, that's going on. So that's just me having that. Think of all the millions of people across the United States that's happened. Well, I'm not going to say anything. I can't work. I mean, that's the choice you're giving these people. Yeah. If you say you have it, you can't go to work for 2 weeks. And then the other side of that fence is, they're saying I can't work because of the coronavirus. Well, you're kind of putting everybody in a noose. I mean, you're not giving nobody a choice. I think it should be a choice. And I agree with the people on TV that says, you can't tell me not to work. It is a right. It's your right to work. It's a choice not to.
Right.
And that's what we're not getting. We're not getting that choice. And I think, was it Milwaukee or whatever, where they said you can't do that? The judge voted against it. It says no. Yep. They have a right to go to work. They have a right to do this, or they have a right to do that. And I think it was, I forgot where it was. I watched that Mixed News on 200 on DirecTV, but it's called Mixed News, where you watch all 4 channels on the screen. And they had a police officer. I want to say it was either in Ohio or Chicago. And he says, they want me to write tickets to these people that are working or that's going to church. And he goes, I would rather have you going to church and asking God to help us than going into the liquor store and asking Jack to help you. And when you think about it in its simplest form, it's honest to God's truth. You got a guy over here, it's okay to be drunk and buy alcohol, but the Christian woman can't go to church, or the Catholic or the Mormon or whoever can't go to church and pray and ask God to help us get through this, pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
But yet we spend a dollar bill. It says, in God we trust. I think it should say in Democrats we trust, but that's okay.
So from a workflow standpoint, have you guys seen anything slow down or?
No, actually, we've stayed very steady, and we've actually had a little bit of a spike in the beginning because I think we were one of probably 10 plumbing companies and restoration companies out there. I know a lot of restoration companies that didn't work, so we were getting a lot of extra work, but we've leveled on. We're back to normal. We're on our normal cycle.
That's good.
We're back to business as normal, but we really not once did we ever stop. We just took a lot of precautions. And in the beginning, we were actually charging a little extra because our guys, we didn't know how far this would go. So we were wearing booties, gloves, when this first came out and we said, okay, and the state said, everybody stop. They actually, I think for 2 weeks had everybody's attention to saying this is serious. And then after about that 2 or 3 week period, people are kind of going, you're kind of full of crap. I'm sorry, but I'm having a hard time believing all of this.
Right.
And then
we kind of saw the same thing. Yeah, we saw the same thing because, again, we only work with contractors. So kind of when it first started, you almost saw everybody just kind of hunker down and kind of hold on and not really want to do anything. And then all of a sudden, like you said, 2 or 3 weeks into it, everything started loosening back up. People started working. If they weren't working already, they at least went back to work or increased their workflow because for like those first
people got to work. I mean, I'm sorry, but your mortgage, the bank didn't say, because of the coronavirus, you don't have to make your payment this month. Yeah. They said that they asked the banks and they asked the credit and the people that are, in charge of sending bills out. They asked you to have a waiver or give you a little bit of slack, but you know what? I didn't know of any bank that said, no, you don't have to pay your rent until December.
Right.
It's amazing to me because, like I said, the wheel's still turning. You still got to pay your rent. You still got to pay your gas. You still have to eat. And there's we met one family that both people work at the casino and they're still not back at work. So, you're making $1,000 to $2,000 a week working at the casino, and now all of a sudden you're not making nothing. How long are you going to last?
Well, knock on wood, casinos is probably open this weekend, hopefully, or next.
They're supposed to open, I believe, this weekend or by the 1st of June, I think is the target date. And a lot of them.
I got a Vegas trip planned for that last weekend in May, first weekend, or what is it, the 20 or the 29th, 30th, and the 1st, or something like that. So I'm hoping. Yeah,
that actually, if you want that shocked me that Vegas actually did shut down. I mean, let's face it, that town's all tourism. That's 100% of their income, and that town shut down. I mean, it's almost scary and eerie looking when we were driving the first 3 weeks, dude. It was great because you could get from LA to San Diego in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
There was nobody on the road. It was like driving at 2:00 in the morning without drunk drivers.
Traffic is definitely back now. So that's good signs.
Hello. There we go. It didn't take it long either. It took, I think, 3 to 5 days. But you know what? It's gotten back to where I say it's normal. We were very fortunate. We didn't miss a beat. We didn't lay anybody out. Actually, we hired 3 people during this pandemic. So we've been very fortunate as far as that goes. But I've always been a firm believer in you're only as good as your last job, and service is everything. So it's tough to be in that predicament and not be able to eat. Like I told you, I started my own business from somebody telling me I can't work.
Yeah.
And that's truly what kicked it off. I had 3 little boys at home, and I said, man, I got to work. I'm sorry. They're eating.
Well, I hear you. We appreciate it. We'll let you run here. We'll let you get on. Before you get on, we want to give you an opportunity to kind of plug yourself, your name or your website and phone number or email or however the people can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Our website is www.accurateleclocators.com. And you can hire our services through our website and our webpage, or you can call us at 888-333-5325. And we do cover 5 counties, Southern California, LA, Orange, San Diego, Riverside, and San Bernardino. We do cover a vast area, but we do guarantee 24-hour service, meaning that, if you call us in the morning, we will get to you usually by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but we do guarantee that we'll be out there within the next day, especially if it's an emergency, it's within an hour. And we work with all insurance companies, and we also work direct for homeowners and direct for contractors. And I would love to have the opportunity to earn your business. It's not something that's giving. I want to earn it. And I will do that if you give me that opportunity. And I'm only as good as my last job and your comments and your reviews are welcomed, because I pride ourselves on our workmanship, on our cleanliness, and our thoroughness on a job. I appreciate your guys' time, and I may every one of you be healthy and stay safe out there, and hopefully we'll get through this thing and we can get back to doing what we normally do, which is enjoying our lovely weather and get back to work.
Amen.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it, Tony. Thanks so much for coming on.
Guys, thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it. Mike, thank you so much.
No worries. Have a great day.
All right, you do the same. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.